I never really believed in strange things. Not until that night in Russia. When people hear my wife is Russian, they imagine some tall, blonde woman with a thick accent who wears heels even to buy milk. But my Lana? She's nothing like that. Dark hair, speaks better English than I do, and is completely obsessed with sneakers. There's one thing that does fit the stereotype. She never gets cold. I guess that's because she grew up far above the Arctic Circle, in a tiny town where the wind never stops screaming and winter lasts for months. I'd met her family only twice, both times in the States. I never planned on visiting her hometown until a week ago. Lana got a call. Her mother had suffered a stroke. The local doctor said she might not have much time left. Moving her to a bigger hospital wasn't an option. The journey was too dangerous. Lana booked tickets immediately, and I went with her. Getting there wasn't easy. We flew to Moscow, then needed a connecting flight to Norilsk, one of the northernmost cities in Russia. But the airport was closed. Bad weather, no flights. And as a foreigner, I couldn't go anyway. Lana was panicking. Then she suggested an alternative. A truck driver, Kolya, could drive us along an ice road, what Russians call a zimnik. It was dangerous, night travel over frozen rivers and snow, but she swore it was safe. I didn't believe her, but when she looked at me, desperate to reach her mother, I couldn't say no. We landed in the northern town, and the cold hit me instantly. It wasn't a cold you could wear away. It bit into your bones. Kolya met us, a rugged man, skin cracked from the cold, tired eyes. He laughed at my American coat and warned I'd freeze. Then he took a quick shot of vodka before leaving. "Just one for the road," she whispered. "Don't worry, he knows his limits." The truck rumbled to life, and soon we were driving through endless white emptiness. For miles, nothing but ice, darkness, and the faint sound of the wind. Then it started snowing harder, and the wind, it wasn't just wind. It screamed, it howled, it rattled the truck. It felt alive. I tried to stay calm. Kolya looked worried. Lana whispered sharp and low, "Don't mention the wind." The noises got worse. Voices, wails, crying, sometimes laughter. And I realized this wasn't just the storm. Through the blizzard, we saw a car stuck in the snow, blinkers flashing. "Stop," Lana said suddenly. Kolya cursed. "You're crazy. You know what's out there." "On the ice road, you help. That's the rule," she said firmly. The door opened. A gust of freezing air rushed in. Silence. Then a scream. High, human, terrified. And a roar, something deep and guttural that didn't sound human at all. That's the last thing I remember before blacking out completely. When I woke, it was daytime. I was in a small wooden house. Lana was by my side, fussing over me. "Where's the boy, Sergei?" I asked. Lana looked confused. "What boy? We traveled alone." Kolya nodded. "No boy. You hit your head too hard, Amerikaska." I wanted to argue, but my head was spinning. Maybe I imagined everything. We reached her hometown safely, but it was too late. Her mother had passed away. We stayed for the funeral, surrounded by endless snow, the wind never stopping. When we were packing to leave, my father-in-law gave me a heavy coat for the journey back. I folded my light beige coat into my bag and noticed something. Stuck to it, a few strands of curly red hair. And outside, the wind let out a long, low howl, almost like a voice. And I swear, it said my name. There's an unspoken rule up in the Alaskan mountains. No matter who you are, friend, bitter rival, stranger, if you're ever in a pinch and come across another hunter's cabin, you're welcome to seek shelter. Maybe it's unspoken because it's common sense. Do unto others. Survive or help survive. Or maybe it's because there's hardly anyone to talk to up there. In the winter months, you could go weeks, even months, without seeing another soul. But the rule is simple. If you need it, you use it. No questions, no judgment. Just don't steal anything. I'm not a burly mountain man. I don't floss with tree bark or live unshaven for months, but I do like hunting. My name's Ethan, and I often leave my small Alaskan village for weeks at a time, heading up to my hunting lodge in the mountains. I like to be cautious. I check forecasts, pack supplies, bring backups, and make sure I have enough to survive at least a week longer than I expect, just in case. I used to believe my precautions were enough, that they could protect me. But like a child's security blanket, they were a paper-thin illusion. There's no planning when Mother Nature decides she's angry. That's why I never expected to get caught in a blizzard that day. The morning had been sunny, cold, and perfect. I was heading back to my lodge with a couple of hares slung over my shoulders. Names, dinner, and breakfast. I had a plan to eat breakfast for dinner and dinner for breakfast, just to make myself laugh. It's the little things like that that keep the solitude from turning into loneliness. By mid-afternoon, clouds rolled in. By the time they merged into a heavy gray blanket, I was halfway home. And then it started. The snowfall came suddenly, like someone slammed shut an awning overhead. It wasn't just snow, it was a relentless, unending assault. Last I checked, no weather report had mentioned a blizzard, and yet here I was, struggling through one. Darkness came quickly. I kicked myself for leaving my flashlight behind. I had planned to return before nightfall, but clearly I had miscalculated. Snow pierced my eyes. Wind cut through my clothes straight to my bones, and I couldn't see more than 2 feet in front of me. I sank into the growing blanket of white with each step, exhaustion and panic creeping in. At some point, I realized I was lost. I should have been at my lodge, but all I saw was white, gray slivers swaying in the blizzard. The hairs pressed against my neck, stiff and battered by the wind, like tiny reminders of my own vulnerability. And then I walked right into a cabin. Literally, I stumbled feet first into the wooden structure. My hands pressed against it as I circled around, desperately searching for a door. I was in real danger now. Life or death. I knocked, waiting for an answer. Through the howling wind, I thought I heard a faint, "Come in." I swung the door open, snow tumbling in with me. Relief washed over me immediately as the cold outside stopped assaulting me. "Thanks," I whispered. Inside, it was pitch black. I tried to get my bearings, but all I saw was a shadow in the corner. Someone, or something, sitting there. "You're a real lifesaver," I said, my voice shaking slightly. No answer. I groped around for a lighter, lantern, or match, but only felt chains and hunting rifles. I stopped when I brushed against an open bear trap. One wrong move and I could lose a hand. I decided to sit still and wait, too tired and frozen to argue with fate. So, I started, trying to sound casual. You own this cabin? A hiss answered me. Yes. I lowered my pack to the floor and set the hairs beside me. My hands trembled as I shed my wet clothes and slipped into my sleeping bag. Thanks again, I muttered, trying to sound conversational. That blizzard came out of nowhere. The hiss of the man was slow, labored and wheezy. Dangerous. Yeah, I chuckled nervously. That's an understatement. Hungry, he exhaled. You got a fireplace? I've got a couple hares. I can cook them, I offered. No, he replied. Okay, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. As soon as the blizzard dies down, I'll gather wood. We can have a fire. Can you wait? There was a pause. Then a strange, drawn-out sound. No, yes. The final note shifted unnaturally, like a flute breaking in half. I looked at the single window. Outside, everything was black and white. The storm had frozen light into shapes I couldn't decipher. I focused on that because the rest of the cabin was impossible to read in the darkness. I'm going to try to sleep a bit, I said, exhausted. No reply. Mountain people don't talk much. I curled up in my bag and drifted into a restless sleep, the wind still singing outside. I woke to a snapping, crunching sound. My heart leapt. The ceiling? No, it was my belongings. The silhouette from before had shifted. Chains rattled. My pulse shot through the roof. I was in full panic mode. I grabbed my backpack and braced against the wall. The wind slowly died, and light began to filter in through the cabin's small window. I could see now. The person wasn't a person at all. It was a corpse. Long dead, mummified, skin shriveled, hair in strings, teeth protruding through dried lips, the left foot caught in a bear trap. I traced the chain up to a hook on the wall. It must have fallen while he was out gathering supplies. He'd likely died of thirst or exposure. I sat there horrified. Exhaustion and isolation had made me think the corpse was alive, but the evidence was undeniable. And yet, breakfast was gone, its head missing, white fur smeared on the corpse's lips. My heart sunk. I didn't stick around to figure out what happened next. I grabbed my pack and slipped out into the aftermath of the blizzard. The mountains were silent, the rule still unspoken. Survive and don't judge.